Welcome back. As you all know, Quis custodiet ipsos custodes is from one of juvenile satires and means who guards the guards themselves. On this occasion, it's the police watchdog, the IOPC, which has ruled that a former Met officer, Steve Rodhouse, who was recently promoted to head of operations at the National Crime Agency, should face a disciplinary board over allegations that he lied at the conclusion of Operation Midland. He is the first officer to face disciplinary proceedings over Operation Midland, the criminal investigation in response to false allegations of historic child abuse made by Carl Beach, who is now serving 18 years in prison. Two men with criminal records came forward to support the lies of Carl, quote, Nick Beach. The allegations against the officer centre on a statement issued by the Met in March 2016, in which he said officers have not found evidence to prove that they were knowingly misled by a complainant. This is really serious. People of the greatest distinction had their lives turned over by false allegations, which the Met then carried on insisting had been made properly. I'm very glad to have with me this evening Harvey Proctor, who was one of the people most affected by these allegations, along with Field Marshal Lord Bramall and the late Lord Britton, whose widow had to endure her house being searched by the police in response to false allegations. Harvey, thanks so much for coming in. Where are we on this investigation? What has the IOPC come up with? What do we know has happened so far?
Good evening to you and good evening to your viewers. This has taken a long time, 7 years, to try to gain at least one senior police officer to be responsible for what happened in Operation Midland. Steve Rodhouse was the gold commander of Operation Midland, and you've gone over what the IOPC says he has done in terms of gross misconduct, and there will be a hearing in due course, most probably. I am pleased about that, but first of all I should say innocent until proven guilty, a courtesy that the police did not give me and my colleagues.
Yes. But we must give to Mr. Rodhouse, as he's not here to defend himself. So we can talk about the issue, but we have to assume that he's innocent until proved guilty as much as you ought to have been.
I have just said that.
Yes.
You have just repeated what I've just said.
Yeah. And so the report so far has established that the Operation Midland was the responsibility of the Metropolitan Police, that it made mistakes and is now trying to hold somebody accountable for that. Is that basically the point?
Well, again, I believe the Metropolitan Police Force have engaged in an institutional cover-up to stop the errors, particularly by senior officers in 2014, 15 and 16, seeing the light of day. And that is also what I've been trying to resurrect. Remember, nobody in the police, nobody, if I may say so, in the House of Commons, has tried to get senior police officers for the Met held responsible for these matters.
And people ought to be accountable for the actions that they take in senior positions.
Very rarely are senior police officers. Recently we've had a splurge of commissioners coming on television from the Met saying this junior officer or that junior officer has been held accountable. Let us see what the present commissioner says about this particular inquiry.
So it's a new commissioner. This is the third commissioner in relation to Operation Midland, I think it's right to say. Do you think there will be a different view with this new commissioner? Have you any evidence of that? Have you any indication that he takes a different view?
The evidence is that 6 months ago or thereabouts, I asked him for a meeting. He declined.
On what grounds?
On the grounds that the IOPC were investigating Mr. Rodhouse and the Met for not investigating witness A and B. You're right that Carl Beach was eventually, not by the Met, but by Northumbria Police, investigated and then prosecuted and found guilty of several charges of perverting the course of justice, and as you say, now serves 18 years in prison. But the Met didn't do that. The Met did not want to investigate Beach or witness A or witness B. Why? because they were their star witnesses and they were afraid of what would come out. That is why they've engaged in a cover-up.
So what is the cover-up over A and B that the Met is carrying out, in your view?
Well, it's been going on for some time. Every time I've complained, the Metropolitan Police have either pushed my complaints away.
But what's the purpose of the cover-up? Because now Beach has gone to prison. Everyone knows that Midland was false, that the allegations were false. Why should they be protecting A and B? What could be the motive for that?
Because they know that they should have investigated and led to a prosecution of A and B in March 2016 at the end of Operation Midland. Instead, the Metropolitan Police put out statements saying they were not knowingly misled. The report, and I show it for the first time on the media,
yes.
Here is the report Operation Timers by the IOPC, 70 pages investigating my complaint. And I'm pleased that the IOPC have at last investigated these matters and have concluded with me that further action needs to be taken against a senior police officer, and that will come about. Now, can I say, I am not wanting this for any reason of revenge. The reason why I want this is to make sure it doesn't happen again. And if police officers think that senior police officers throughout the country, however long ago, whatever they've done, can get away with it, then that will not help people in the future falling into the same position that I fell into. So that's what I'm doing.
It's about justice. Justice not just for you, but for people in the future.
For me, that has gone by.
I know you've had
It is the future that I'm looking at, and I want to make sure that no other person goes through the horrors that I had to endure.
Well, I know how terrible that has been. I've read about that, and I have so much admiration for what you have done to bring this to public attention. Harvey, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you.